Welcome to the Friday Happy Hour with victory strategist, award-winning author and your happy hour host, Annmarie Kelly. Each week, Annmarie chats with women who have reinvented, started over or wrote fabulous next chapters. They share how they overcame their midlife challenges and how you can too. So kick back with some good happy hour something to drink and enjoy today's show.
You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour with me, Annmarie Kelly. I'm that recovering good girl and your Victorious Woman Empowerment Partner. And this is where us Victory Chicks and you men who care about us meet on Fridays to chat about things we can do to achieve our goals, overcome our challenges, get empowered, and make our lives sparkle. Thanks for coming to Happy Hour today. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're joining me for the end of our work week. You know, when I ran a corporate university for a local Better Homes and Gardens company, I've recreated the sales manual and wrote a decent amount of content. What I didn't know then was that I didn't own what I wrote. My company did. And at that time, I wasn't interested in things like intellectual property. I don't think I even knew what intellectual property was. But I do now. And I know people who have been sued for posting something online that was somebody else's, even just a picture. And they didn't even know it was illegal until they got slapped with a demand letter. These days, so many of us are writing blogs, posting on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, other social media. And it's important to know how to protect your work and how not to get into trouble using somebody else's work. So I asked attorney Waukeshia Jackson to join us to talk about that. And not just that, she has quite a story. It's a Victorious Woman style story. So I asked her to come talk about both of those things today, and she's our guest. So she'll be here in a little bit. So listen, how was your work week? Mine was, as usual, crazy busy. And between getting ready for Girlfriend Gala, which is only 26 days away, and doing the edits for my next book, 5-Year Marriage, and like my normal work things, I was thinking I could use a few days away just by myself. You know what I mean? And in fact, I might do that this weekend. Joseph's teaching a class on Sunday, so I might go down to the shore for a couple of days just to wrap up the edits, which this week presented a whole new problem. I was prepping for a meeting with the editor, and I realized I missed a big chunk of information. And actually, that information was written, but for some strange reason, I included it in a later chapter, where it pretty much doesn't make any sense. And I don't know what I was thinking, why I did it. I have no idea. So, but let me explain it this way. The easiest way, I think, is think of, some of you might read murder mysteries. So if you think of a murder mystery, you know how in those books, in the first few chapters, you meet the characters and you learn about the murder, and then the rest of the book is about solving the crime? Well, of course, this book is nonfiction, but the way I wrote my first chapters would be like introducing all the characters and not the crime. So if you were reading it, you'd read references to some murder, but not know anything about it. And you'd be scratching your head wondering, wait, did I miss something? Well, when I saw that this week, and when I realized it, I totally freaked out. I knew how to go back over the chapters to figure out how to incorporate that one piece. It was written. It just was in an odd place. But I couldn't, and I couldn't do it fast anyway. Because I think I'll need to rewrite one whole chapter, which is thrilling me to no end. And I can't do it with all the daily interruptions. So I was thinking I need to go someplace where I don't have any interruptions. And I don't know if you remember, I did that back in December when I went to Gettysburg for a few days. And I can assure you, there's pretty much nothing for a tourist to do in Gettysburg in December. So I worked without distractions, and I got past the stuck place. Well, I need to do that again. And if I do it this week, I'll report back to you next week. and I'm so ready to be done with the writing. And it's like, Victory Chicks will understand, it's like being in your third trimester. You know, you did what needed to be done, you just wish the baby would come out. And that's how I feel. And you know, when the baby comes out, you still have more work to do, but you just wish the baby would come out. Well, that's how I feel right now. I want it done, and I'm the only one who can do it. So that was part of my week. And then I also worked on Girlfriend Gala, which is going good. Earlier this week, I talked to Carol Algier, and you might remember her. She was one of the Prosperity Sisters from Full Spirited Flavors. And they bring their amazing liqueur cakes for our desserts. If you've never had a Full Spirited Flavors cake, you really need to go and get one, because they're great as hostess gifts. There's little ones you can give as hostess gifts. But they bring their amazing liqueur cakes for our desserts. And I think Carol said this year they're bringing their limoncello cake. So, and I love their cakes. My personal favorite is coconut mango rum. But it's a sort of, you have to have an odd taste, you have to like coconut and you have to like mango. Not everybody does, so that's why they're bringing limoncello. Well, also this week I found out that La Baguette Magique, and that's that French bakery down on Market Street, down by the Justice Center, they're donating a dish of cookies for our gala desserts too. And by the way, have you been there yet? I know I've talked about them before, but I love that place. I don't think I've had a single thing there that I didn't love. And the last time I was there, I got a cookie. And not just like one of the small, like, you know, you buy them by the dozen cookies. This was a big cookie. It was probably like a 3x4 size. And it, you know, and of course nothing in their bakery is ordinary. But this was their special cookie. It's big, it's rich. I ordered it with a cup of tea. I brought some work with me. So I got my work done while I sipped a cup of Earl Grey and ate that and half of that cookie. And it was like being in heaven. And I would have eaten the rest, but I'm dieting again. So I saved the other half for Joseph, and he loved it. And if you haven't been there yet, go. They close at 5 during the week and earlier on weekends, so go for your breakfast goodies or your lunch, and you'll be glad you did. It's tasty stuff. The news had me riled up this week, and I heard Eric talking about it a little bit in the show before me, but this whole flap over free speech and the riots on the Berkeley, California campus is very disturbing. I've been noticing over the past maybe 10 years that conservative viewpoints in public are at best dissed. Now, I first started noticing that with my ultra-liberal friend Kate. We got into a conversation one day, this was, you know, as I said, about 10 years ago, and she said, I don't even know how I can have you as a friend. And that sort of shocked me, because I don't think I thought our political views had anything to do with our friendship. But apparently she did. And she and I know she is a very judgmental person. So we've talked about that, and she knows that. You know, so I just sort of wrote it off, knowing that that's how she is. Sort of like when she mocked me for not being a drinker of red wine. And I'm not. I'm confessing it. If I'm going to drink wine, it's white. And sometimes, like at a wine tasting, I'll try red wine. But chances are I won't even finish it. And if you're a happy hour regular, you know I drink scotch, and in the summer, rum. So, you know, Kate can't deal with that, and she thinks that red wine is all there is. So, and she really couldn't handle the white wine thing. She told me I should make an effort to develop a taste for red wine. I just told her I'd probably never be as sophisticated as she is, and I would leave all the sophistication in the world to her. And clearly I was being tongue-in-cheek. But since then, I've gradually watched something in our culture shift, and for women it seems to focus on abortion and supporting a woman's right to choose. So now I happen to be a conservative who's pro-choice, but I've seen women who are pro-life and get a verbal tongue lashing every time they talk about that. That's the equivalent of being spit on. You know, when I was coming up, I knew my job was to get married, have children, and take care of a house. And any talk of feminism or a feminism-related topic at my dinner table was mocked. So there were feminist women that, you know, that I just knew that wasn't a good thing. And had it not been for getting engaged when I was 22 and then breaking the engagement, I might never have embraced women's empowerment. But, that's how my life happened, and I'm glad it did. So I thought the whole thing around feminism was about women not being boxed into a specific mold, that I could choose. I could choose to marry or not. I could choose to have children or not. I could choose a career or not. But it was about society not being able to tell me what the right thing was. It was about my choice. Now, apparently not, because feminism has seemed to morph into a specific set of rules. And if you don't follow those rules, if you don't embrace all the liberally approved talking points, you aren't part of the crowd, and the mean girls are after you. I just find that so disturbing. But, we're all going to have to deal with it. We're all going to have to get over it, and we're going to have to, talk to each other. And we can't do it through social media. And if you've been on Facebook, sometimes it gets really angry. Those of us who are in midlife know you have to, look at somebody face to face, and you have to have a conversation. And I think if we start doing more of that, I think that, that whole thing will get better. The whole idea of free speech, especially for women, has gone the way of dinosaurs. And we can't let that happen. Isn't that what the early feminists railed against? It's so crazy. And something else that is crazy is intellectual property. And that's why I asked attorney Waukeshia Jackson to join us today to help us sort those things out. And she has such a good story of victory that I want her to tell you some of that too. So listen, go get some good happy hour, something to drink, and come back for us to talk with Waukeshia Jackson. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.
When you wished you had more time for yourself, and now you have it, but you notice you're keeping busy with stuff, but that stuff isn't making you feel happy or filled up? And when you think about what would make you happy and filled up, you get stuck or feel overwhelmed. And then you go back to what's more familiar, more comfortable, even if it's not making you happy. Wouldn't you love to find a way to start making sense of that deep discontent you're feeling? Well, you're not alone. I'm Annmarie Kelly, author, victory strategist, and the radio show host of the Friday Happy Hour. And I know there's a place for you, one that other women have found to be both inspirational and empowering, and it's the Victorious Woman Project. Go there now and get on my mailing list, where you'll be the first to know about my upcoming online workshops, teleseminars, and more. And while you're there, take a couple minutes to look over my blog. You can download some of the free stuff I have for you and let it get your creative juices going. I'm looking forward to meeting you at the Victorious Woman Project. And that's at www.victoriouswoman.com.
Welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour. I'm Annmarie Kelly, and I have attorney Waukeshia Jackson here. Welcome to the Friday Happy Hour, Waukeshia.
Hi, Ann. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you came. Listen, you are really what I would call a victorious woman, and here's why. That in high school, this is what I want my listeners to know about. In high school, you decided to become an electrical engineer, but when I read about your reason for doing that, it made me laugh. Why did you decide on electrical engineering?
To be honest, I decided to go to school for electrical engineering simply because my mama told me to. When I was 10 years old, my mom, looked at my grades. I was doing really well in math and science, and she essentially said that I should pursue a career in electrical engineering. I had no idea what electrical engineers did, where they worked, how much money they made. The only engineer that I knew at the time worked on the railroad, and I asked my mom, really, you want me to go to school to work on the railroad? I don't really understand why, but okay. So I, went to high school and made sure that I excelled in all my classes so that I could potentially go to college and become an electrical engineer. Just based on her direction.
Just based on her direction. That makes me look, that's engineering to be, like any of the STEMs, or, especially when you were at that stage, there's more attention paid to it now, but especially for you, there wasn't a lot of attention paid to girls going to any of the STEM careers.
Right. I didn't know all of the people that I knew that were engineers. Like I said before, they worked on the railroad, and they were all male. And as I started my college career, it was definitely still predominantly male-dominated field. And because of that, and not only just because of the push now, but because of my own personal experience, I'm on a mission now to inspire girls in technology. I think that it's hard to be what you hardly see. Like myself, I was just ignorant to the fact of what an actual engineer was, and I think that there's so many different talented individuals out there that if they were aware of the opportunities in engineering, but definitely in any of the STEM fields, especially young girls, that they may be more willing to pursue those careers and understand that if we get more women, if we get more young girls interested at a young age, then we can start to change some things and create some new interesting things for us by us women.
I like what you just said. Did you say you can't be what you can't see? Did you?
Right.
Is that
right.
what you said?
It's right.
I like that. But here's the thing. You grew up on the poor side, right?
Yes, I grew up extremely poor. I didn't. The good news is I had no idea that I was poor.
That's always a little bonus, huh?
Yeah. We grew up in a single wide trailer. It was moderate, but my mom made sure that it was always clean. It was always well maintained. My parents divorced when I was really young, so I watched my mom raise a family of 4 children on her own. I'm the oldest of 4, and I'm the only girl. So I also think that with regards to being in a male-dominated field, that may be one of the reasons why I didn't have such a problem, because I grew up around boys, so I was kind of used to being in that environment. But yeah, I definitely grew up in poverty, and I think that that's part of my mom's reasoning for wanting me to be in engineering, so that I didn't have to repeat her struggle.
And then your guidance counselor told you that you couldn't go to college, and you got no help.
Right. So, I'm a first-generation college graduate. I had no idea on what the application process was. Outside of getting good grades, I knew I had to get good grades. I knew I needed to participate in extracurricular activities. Back then, there was no internet to look up all these things. So I did what I knew to do, which was go to my guidance counselor and tell him what my interests are, and that I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to school in electrical engineering. And his exact words to me were, to be honest with you, I don't even see you graduating from high school. I'm really surprised that you're doing so based on, your background and where you come from. Nothing to do with my grades or academic achievement, just based simply on the fact that I was, to say it nicely, a poor black girl.
Yeah, that you lived in a trailer and yeah.
So when I asked him for, assistance, he refused. So I took to the phone book, I took to newspapers, I took to encyclopedias, any resources that I can find. I mailed, I called colleges, I would get, request brochures and things like that to find out about scholarships, how to apply, what do I do. And fortunately, I was able to land an honor scholarship at Louisiana State University.
You had dogged determination, didn't you, Waukeshia?
Well, I think that sometimes, we tend to let our circumstances define what we can do and what we can't do. Yes, it's true. I was an African-American girl that grew up in poverty. Neither one of my parents had, graduated from college. And maybe all those things say on the face that I'm not, college material, but I'm my own person. And I had to decide for myself what it was that I wanted. And, I felt like my guidance counselor was giving me a ton of excuses to fall on and say, woe is me and I can lay here and be a victim. But I chose not to do that and wanted to, one, I wanted to make my mom proud of me. But 2, I also wanted to prove that I could actually do this. That's
what a lot of us, that's how a lot of us get to victorious woman, So then, but here was the thing. Then you graduated high school. You got accepted into college. And right before you went to high school, you had a diagnosis.
Right. So I graduated from college. I have an honor scholarship to attend LSU at home, majored in electrical engineering, and I was going to get an eye exam, and I was diagnosed with a rare and degenerative, untreatable eye disease. It's known as Retinitis Pigmentosa. It's called RP. And what happens with that eye disease is you potentially could lose all your sight. Your retina degenerates, at various paces. It affects people differently. You tend to lose your night vision as well as your peripheral vision. Some people have central vision. One eye may be better than the other eye. But even though I knew, he told me when I was 18 that I had this eye disease, it was kind of like, okay, I have the disease, but my eyesight hadn't started to deteriorate at that point. Well, at least I wasn't aware of it. So I walked out of his office still able to pass the eye exam enough to pass the driver's license test to continue to drive. I saw trees. I saw colors. I continued to see everything as I normally would. I was going to college, and I didn't realize then, I know now, that my eyesight was deteriorating because I used the magnifying glass. I wore glasses, but I used the magnifying glass to actually read my textbook. And I didn't even, understand what was going on. I thought, I really wish these publishers would make this text a little bigger. That would really help a person out. So, but I still, went to college, graduated, and did electrical engineering, and here I am today.
But you didn't just graduate and get your undergraduate degree. You went on and tell us more.
So, yes, I graduated in electrical engineering, and I later went back to school to get a degree in a master's in business. So I went to get an MBA, and then later went on to get a law degree. In obtaining, there are 3 separate degrees, 3 separate times. You can do a JD and MBA at the same time, but I didn't go that route. I wanted to find a way, although once I did go to school in electrical engineering, I realized that I do have a passion for science and technology, but I wanted to be able to combine, law, business, and technology. I saw in my profession that those 3 areas, if you can find a way to combine them, you can be really successful and really profitable, which led me to intellectual property. But we'll get there in a minute. But I didn't, again, because I guess ignorance would be the only word that I can use. And part of it, I guess, would be not wanting to face the reality of what was happening with my eyesight. I went, obtained all these degrees without any sort of accommodations at all from the university. I attended classes, took my exams and notes, and studied it just the way the quote-unquote normal person would.
And you graduated, you got all your degrees, you had a job, you were making some money, you were doing good.
Yes. Life was wonderful until a couple of years ago, and I was driving, and I was at a stop sign, and I looked to the left, looked to the right, the 1, 2, 3, and as I started to pull out, this red sports car missed me by seconds. And I didn't see it. It was coming from my left side. I totally didn't see it. And I went to the eye doctor, and they told me that, I'm now what's considered legally blind. My eyesight had deteriorated to that point. Driving was completely out of the question. And so I was devastated at that point. Didn't really know, I was kind of depressed, I'll say that as well, and trying to figure out, what do I do now? I have all this education, I'm just really, really doing well in my career, and I have a daughter, that I'm taking care of, and so how am I going to continue to live my life normally? What helped me through that is that I actually went to a support group for blind people, and even though I'm legally blind, I still have some sight, I still have some vision, and so I was able to see people that were totally and permanently blind, that were entrepreneurs, that were still, socially active, that were doing all these amazing things, and the fact that they had lost their sight did not hinder them at all. And so I decided it's not going to hinder me either. I mean, I lost my sight or some portion of it, but I hadn't lost my vision for my life. So I decided to keep moving and going forward.
Yeah. And you know what, Waukesha, I remember when talking with my mother about when she stopped driving, and she was about 86 or 87 when that happened. And then, it was a couple years later when we talked about it, and I said, what was that like, Mom? And it was like one of the worst days of her life, because it took away a level of freedom that she had when she could get in the car and drive. And she never drove that far when she was in her 80s. She just drove to the food store, and, but she said it was one of the worst days of her life.
I can relate to a certain degree, but when you come from a place where people have always told you things that you can't do, so my guidance counselor said I couldn't go to college, and I said yes I can, and then even to just go back into graduate school and do that while raising a family, people said that I couldn't. When I decided to start my own business, people said that I couldn't, and now someone's telling me that I can't drive. Well, Uber and Lyft is here, so I can still get around. So that now with the technology, I think that I didn't have, even though I was devastated because I can't drive anymore, there are resources out there that enabled me to get from A to B, and so that's what I do.
So now you have your own law practice, and you have a partner, right? It's you and your partner.
Yes, I have a partner.
And and one of your specialties is intellectual property.
Yes.
Now, we have to go for a break, but I know a lot of Victory chicks who are listening, and our guys, are small business owners, or they're thinking about starting a small business in their next chapter, and, part of that is writing a blog. So I have some questions to ask you about that, and we'll do that as soon as we come back.
Perfect.
You're listening. Everybody stay close. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.
Hi, this is Annmarie Kelly, author, victory strategist, and the radio show host of the Friday Happy Hour. I trust you're enjoying my conversation with this fabulous, victorious woman. If you're getting inspired with ideas and feeling empowered, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's more for you. Tips, downloads, resources at the Victorious Woman Project. Go to victoriouswoman.com and look around and get on my mailing list so you can be the first to know about the newest good things I have for you. That's www.victoriouswoman.com.
Welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour. I'm Annmarie Kelly, and I'm here with attorney Waukeshia Jackson. We're talking about intellectual property. So listen, Waukeshia, what is intellectual property?
Before I answer that question, let me just say this, that any information that I give out right now is not considered legal advice.
Oh, good caveat. Glad you did it.
Caveat. Intellectual property is something more than ideas. It's the legal way that we protect our creative the creative things that we create. For example, trademarks for branding, art, logos, books, poems, music, films, blog posts, images, anything that we create. It can be protected through intellectual property, which covers trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, and patents.
So, before I wrote my first book, somebody told me I should copyright it by sending a copy to myself, and I think I probably did that like at the very early stages, but then I did more legal stuff with it. But recently somebody told me they wrote a song, words and music, and posted a video online. And I asked them if it was copyrighted, and the guy said, well, I didn't, not officially, but I protected myself by sending a copy of it to myself. I don't think that does it, does it?
Well, there are 2 points on that. One, copyright vests as soon as the object is created. So technically, legally, you have a copyright in a created work once it's fixed in a tangible medium. So once you've written your book, once you've recorded your song, once you've saved it to your hard drive, to your computer, you have a copyright in it. The issue becomes whether or not you can sue for infringement or any of the rights that you have on the copyright. And you can't do that until you register it, and you have to register it with the Copyright Office. And there are timelines that are in place so that if you create a book today, you have either 3 months from the time that you publish the book or prior to infringement that allows you to certain damages under copyright law. If you wait until after that timeline passes, then yes, you can still get copyright protection, but if somebody has infringed your work and you haven't registered within that time frame, then you lose what's called statutory damages, which are up to $150,000 per work, and attorney's fees that are automatically granted to you, are available to you by statute. If you wait, then you have to actually prove how much this person profited, what are the actual damages when you go to court. And that can be very time-consuming and almost impossible to prove, and it's a lot less likely that an attorney will take your case if you haven't fully registered your copyright.
And so is that something you do online? Is there a fee attached to it?
Yes, you do it online, or you can do it via paper. www.copyright.gov is the copyright website. And for paper registrations, I believe the fee is around $55. For online registrations, and for paper registrations, it's about $85.
Small price to pay compared to what you might have to pay to get an attorney to file, infringement or something like that.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Copyright is one of the most affordable forms of intellectual property that are available. It's also one of the easiest types of intellectual property to obtain, and it has a large value of protection. You can get up to $150,000 per infringement, and for a $55 fee, it is definitely worth it.
Yeah. You'd be foolish not to do it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Waukeshia, a lot of us write blogs. Now, on my blog and Victorious Woman and on 5-Year Marriage, I write the content. Most of the time, I write the content. So do I own that content?
You own the content that you create.
What if I have a guest blogger?
They own the content that they create.
On my blog?
On your blog.
So if I write a blog for somebody else, I still own that content.
You own the content. There may be some implied license there because I also encourage people to have a licensing agreement or an assignment agreement that says you're writing this content for my blog. I own it. I can use it in any way that I so choose prior to that work being commenced, or have it in your terms of use or something like that, so that they're, that way you're protected. Otherwise, yes, if I write content for your blog, then I own the content. I can go and put that same content somewhere else because it's mine.
Now, what if it's a joint blog, like for example, our local newspaper, the Daily Local, invites readers to have a blog, or online places like, Huffington Post. Who owns those rights?
It depends. I'm sure that they have some terms of use that govern who owns those rights, but in the event that they don't, then the person that's contributing the article would own it. But I'm sure that there's some agreement in place that says that by sending this, information, this content to our site, then you're giving us the right to it.
Now, what if it's my company's blog, and I write an article for, say, the company newsletter, and that's not really what my job is, but my boss asked me and said, would you write something for the newsletter? And I was saying earlier that I did something like this when I did the sales manual for a company that I worked for. It was not officially in my case it was my job, but what if it's not my job?
Well, at that point, does it then become your job? If they ask you to do it, the lawyer answer is going to be it depends. But for the most part, if you're doing something for your employer, as an employee, then your employer would own the rights to whatever that is that you created.
And that's, when I did that sales manual, I didn't realize that any of the work that I did for that belonged to my company, and I would not have thought, nobody was thinking about intellectual property. Well, not nobody, but most of us weren't thinking about intellectual property before maybe 20 years ago.
Right. And a lot of it, even in, working for some of the big companies, they have you to sign agreements that say that if you create something, copyrights, patents, trademarks, anything that you create, as long as you work for us, belongs to us.
Mm-hmm. Now, somebody I know on their blog, and I when I remember, I do it on my own blog, post a copyright notice at the bottom of every post. Is that a good thing to do or not a good thing to do?
It's a good thing to do, although it's not required, but it's a good thing to do to put other people on notice that you know, who the copyright owner is and when that ownership and that copyright vested. So if I were to take something off of your website that you have a copyright notice of, then that can go towards willful infringement, which gives you an opportunity to collect more damages if it's willful. So by putting someone on notice and they still take some of your content or something, pictures, images, videos, whatever it is that you posted, then that can go towards willful infringement, which will enable you to get more money in the event that you decide to sue them for that infringement.
Now, there's something called fair use.
Yes.
And that's apparently is an exception to copyright, and I think that's where people get into trouble.
That's where a lot of people get into trouble, because fair use is something that only the courts can decide whether or not your use is fair use. They do look at certain factors, how much of the content that you obtained, what was the nature of the use, did you use it for commercial purposes or did you use it for nonprofit purposes, did you transform the use, did you change it in any way, did you take the most important piece of this content and use it. So those are all factors that are considered by the courts, but there's no such thing as just this is fair use, black and white.
Oh, so there's not like a book of rules that you can get that says this is fair use and this isn't?
Exactly. It does not exist.
So if I'm online and I find a website that has good content, can I use a portion of their content based on that fair use? And at what point do I think it's going to get me into trouble?
I would say ask for permission to use the content from the content owner prior to just simply relying on fair use, because again, it's not going to be up to you to say that this use is fair use. It's going to have to go to court, which could potentially cost you a lot of money.
You know, I have to tell you, in my first book, I was referencing some lines to a song, and I went to the songwriter and said, "Can I use this in my book?" And she was, I got such a nice email back from her because she said, "Nobody ever does that. Thank you for doing that."
Right. A lot of times, especially, up-and-coming artists and things like that, they want their work shared just to get their name out there so that people can know about the things that they're creating. It makes a lot of people, some people don't, though. Some people make things and put them out there for their own use and don't want it to be shared, and that's their right and their copyright to control how that information is reproduced or distributed. So it's always important to ask for permission, and you'll be surprised a lot of times that they'll be more than happy to give it to you.
Yeah,
or they may charge you a small fee, but.
And I have found that, and I've not ever been charged a fee. And you're exactly right. They're happy to have. Now there's a whole bunch of new eyeballs that are going to see their work someplace.
Right.
Mhm. So now I go out of my way to do that. But you know what? How would anybody even know? Like if it was my book and I didn't get that permission, and it became a bestseller, then maybe somebody would know. But short of being a bestseller, how would anybody even know?
Well, if it's online, there are all sorts of systems and companies that are designed to scour the Internet for infringing works, and people pay to use these companies to find infringing works. And if I don't pay, if I created an image, I can do an image search to find out all the places that my image is showing up on the Internet. It's not hard to do at all. And I tell people a lot of times, if you will be found out eventually. It's just a matter of time, especially if it's practice that you continuously do over and over. You have a computer program that's running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Somebody somewhere is going to find you.
So is that something good for, say, it wouldn't be for me, but maybe one of my listeners has a picture or something. They can do an image search?
Yes, you can do an image search in any of the search utilities out there, Google, and it'll pull all of the sites that have that image. There are apps that also do image searches. So you can use an app, download various apps, and it'll find all the places that your images are on the Internet. I actually have a client that I'm working with right now that I basically did an image search for, and I was like, he was suing one person, and I did an image search, and I found it several places, and I said, did you get permission to X, Y, and Z? And he said no. So there was 3 other infringers that we're now going after.
And so you are able to sue. That's where I was talking about that demand letter. So you can. So if it was against me, I could sue somebody.
Yes.
And I think I was telling you earlier this week that I knew somebody who took a picture, and she thought it was just a tiny little thing. It was a tiny little space on her website. And then she got a demand letter, I think it was for $2,000.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. People think that when they take stuff, pictures, doesn't matter. The size, how big, how small, how much. If it belongs to someone else, then they have the right to control it. And also people think that you should get a takedown notice or say, please remove. That's not required. You can get a demand letter asking you for several $1,000s because of the violation.
And so if I'm doing a blog post like the social media is like the Wild West, is there any copyright for what's posted on like Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn?
Well, it depends on where it came from. So if I upload a picture, then that's it's my picture of flowers or whatever, and you want to use it. In the terms of use Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, all of those things, they have conditions in there that if you just share it, you click on share, then that's not an infringement. But if you take it and then repost it, then that could potentially be an infringement, yes.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to know, that there's a big difference between that. And if I took it, for example, from Facebook and put it on my blog, that's an infringement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so can I use? So what about those images I see on Pinterest or like Facebook or Instagram? How do I know? Let me just say this, and let me back up for a second. How do I get pictures that I can use? That I don't want to. Now I belong to a couple of those sites, like iStock and Getty and stuff, and I pay for the images I post because when that happened to my friend or my colleague, and she had to pay $2,000, and she said, I can't believe I have to pay $2,000, but she did because she used it. So I just go to like one of those sites. But what if you don't want to go to that site?
There are other sites like Creative Commons that have information out there for free. There are some things that are in the public domain that you can use. Creative Commons is pretty good at listing all those things. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to have to go to one of those sites, or you're going to have to find out who the copyright owner is and ask for permission. Those are, or take a chance and put it up there and get, potentially get sued.
And Waukeshia, like if I'm putting up a blog post, what's the likelihood I'm going to like figure out whose picture that is and then go to them and say, I want to get that post up. I'm not going to want to waste all that extra time trying to get a blog, trying to get permission.
Right. So if that's the case, then I suggest you use a site like Creative Commons or go ahead and pay the money to get, like Getty Images or the stock photos that's going to support your blog post where you pay a royalty for those images. Because you have to figure out, you're going to pay one way or the other.
So it's Creative Commons. Is that where you go
yes,
free?
Yes.
And then I think Microsoft has something too that you can use where you can get free.
They may. I'm unaware of it. They may have something.
And it's called something. It's called like something free, like copyright free. Is
that
copyright free?
That doesn't ring a bell, but they may have something like that. But just make sure that what's free is really free. I know that Creative Commons is free. Google also has, if you go in advanced search in Google, you can click on, royalty-free images. But a lot of times their images are not really free, so I don't advise people to use it. I know that Creative Commons is okay. That's one that I know for sure.
Okay. We need to take a break, Waukeshia, so we'll come and we'll wrap up in a couple of minutes. Everybody stay close, and you're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.
Are you one of those women who lived the first part of your life as a really good girl? That is, you did all the right things and followed all the so-called rules for women? I was like that too. But have you noticed that once you passed 40, you have less patience for those rules? Maybe you even think that the rules really don't make sense for you anymore. Maybe they never did and you just didn't realize it. Do you want to go where other recovering good girls meet to inspire each other and support their new empowered selves? Then join me, Annmarie Kelly, and some very fabulous victorious women. We're on Facebook at the Victorious Woman Project. So go to facebook.com/Victorious Woman Project. I'll talk to you there.
Welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour. I'm Annmarie Kelly. I'm here with attorney Waukeshia Jackson, and we're talking about intellectual property. So, Waukeshia, what are some of the big things that people miss? Like just regular people that have small businesses. What are some of the things that you notice that they miss when it comes to intellectual property?
One thing that they miss is protecting it. If they have a trademark, they don't register it. If they have a copyright, they don't register it. They're misinformed, like you said, thinking that they can mail something to themselves and that's okay to copyright. So look, the patent, USPTO.gov, copyright.gov is there. There are plenty of online resources about, copyrights and trademarks and patents that you can read, watch videos, things like that. So I would advise people to at least start there to get some basic knowledge of what they need to do to protect themselves.
And what about video? That's another thing. If I see something on television and I want to post it on Facebook or my blog or someplace, what's the best way of doing that?
Is finding it from sharing it from that station's own website.
So you're safe as long as you're doing that.
As long as you're doing that, because the original poster is if I put a video and I'm acknowledging to Facebook or any other form of social media, even my website, that I own that content. And so as long as you're sharing what I posted, then you're fine. But if you take it and repost it, then it's going to be an infringement.
Okay, that's good. We're going to have to go in a couple of minutes, but what I want to know is there are some things that you're doing. You're in that giving back frame of mind. Tell us about your project with young women in the STEM project.
I started an initiative called Gig It, Girls Inspiring Girls in Technology, and it's where
Wait, stop for a second. Gig It?
Gig It. GIGIT, Girls Inspiring Girls in Technology. So it's a program and initiative that I started to help young girls find out about opportunities in STEM. Not just find out about it, from me giving speeches to them, to hands-on projects, to field trips and things like that, to getting them with mentors and networking opportunities, colleges and college representatives, to let them know about opportunities in the STEM field and hopefully be able to grow that population of STEM majors.
And, you know, we're talking about STEM, but would you tell my listeners what STEM stands for?
STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math.
And so when you have this with Gigit, how do you know, who joins that?
I send out an application process I started with my old schools and to send out applications to students, and they can take it to their parents to get them to apply to be a part of Gigit. Initially, we started just saying, hey, just anybody that's interested, we're having this event, bring everyone. And I found out I really needed to have either a teacher recommendation or an essay to really see that these people were serious, the students were serious about, you know, learning about opportunities in STEM and meeting not only with me but with the people that I know in a profession, because time is valuable, and some of these young kids are just, you know, that's not what they're interested in, but they want to go because their friends are going. And so I really wanted to, you know, streamline it to weed out those people that are serious like I was, but just didn't know and didn't have anyone. So I wanted to kind of be that window of opportunity for them.
And so what are some of the things that once they're part of Gigit that they can get?
They can get hands-on training and exposure to different areas of engineering, science, mathematics, technology. They learn how to develop their own applications. Everybody's always on an iPad, an iPhone, some type of device. So instead of just playing the apps that are there, we teach them how to develop their own applications. They learn how to develop, to code a website. They also get mentoring to know, you know, like I didn't get, how to apply to college, what is it that I need to do to go to college, some tutoring if they need it in order to get their grades up. So those are the main things that I get for being a part of the group.
And how do you get people to help you?
I ask. I find it that I get a lot of support. People are really, really excited to be a part of it,
nice.
Whether they donate their time or donate their money, you know, to be able to help bring somebody else along. Everybody wants to most people want to find a way to pay it forward. Some people have money, some people have time. I take all of it, whatever it is that you have to give to help these girls. You know, we appreciate it. You know, some people donate food and things like that to help us with these girls.
Nice. Before I let you go, Waukeshia, tell me about your book.
Oh, so, yeah, recently this year I wrote a book, Start Out Smart, What Every Entrepreneur Needs to Know Now, Not Later. It's available on Amazon for sale. It goes into details about some of the common questions that I have from small business owners and entrepreneurs in and around intellectual property specifically. So I break down copyrights, patents, trademarks, trade secrets, and non-disclosure agreements, things like that. I also give sample agreements inside the book as well. So my advice to a lot of my clients is, you know, not for revenue that's going to bring to me, but for the information that I'm trying to get to you, is, you know, read my book. And after you've read my book and have any other questions that I can assist you with in building, protecting, and maintaining your business in and around intellectual property, then give me a call, because we're going to spend so much time discussing some of the things that we discussed here today and even more detail, because I feel that a lot of business owners, bloggers, don't have a basic foundation of what it is they need to do to protect their businesses.
And all that information is, your contact information and a link to the book is also on the radio wrap-up at victoriouswoman.com. So that they can reach you.
Perfect. Thank you.
And so, Waukeshia, I want the Victory Chicks and our guys to know that you and I share the love of something. And actually, it's a new love for me, probably something old hat to you. But here's the thing. Waukeshia lives in Atlanta, and she knows the restaurant I fell in love with when I was there last month for my friend's daughter's wedding. You know the Flying Biscuit, right, Waukeshia?
Yes, I'm very familiar with the Flying Biscuit.
And you know their grits, right?
Yes.
So tell me this. I was thinking about this. Are there any better grits in Atlanta?
Mine.
Oh, you make grits?
Yes.
All right, Waukeshia. Well, next time I'm in Atlanta, I'm checking in with you, and we're going to go to the Flying Biscuit, and you're going to have to invite me to try your.
Not a problem. I'd love it.
And if you come to the Philly area, I'll take you to a few places for cheesesteaks.
It sounds like a deal.
Yeah, you can do the standard Geno's Pat's taste test, and neither one of those are my favorites. But then I'll take you to the really best cheesesteaks in Philly.
Awesome, definitely.
All right, Waukeshia, thanks so much for coming to the Friday Happy Hour. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure. And it's the same to all of you Victory Chicks and you guys. It's supposed to be beautiful, and so have a good weekend. It's a good weekend to power wash the deck and do the windows, get your summer plantings in, and it's time for tomato plants and basil, two of my favorites. And that's the summer salad. And if you haven't gotten your tickets yet for this year's Girlfriend Gala on May 24th at Penn Oaks, get them while they're it's still early bird pricing. We're gonna have fun. You know, I was at a fundraiser last week, and I walked around the raffle table, and they had good raffle things, and I won a couple of them. But as I was walking around, I thought, my Girlfriend Gala committee got us some of those same things. Some of them are better, and I think we have more things. And I think almost everybody goes home with something. So, like yesterday, in my mail came a bowling party donated by that place in Philly called Lucky Strike. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's called Lucky Strike. And it was a bowling party for four, and it was like they had food in it, and it was like a big deal. And I haven't been there, but somebody on my committee has and says it's fun. So, and I should go bowling. Do you bowl? That was a big thing in my family, and Joseph's brother does it religiously, but I'll bet I haven't bowled in, I'll bet you 15 years. So my bowling time is taken up with ballroom dancing. And that reminds me, there's a new Fred Astaire dance studio in Westtown near the farmer's market, and they donated a free dance lesson. And you know what else? Trudy's Electrolysis. Yesterday, she has a place called Trudy's Electrolysis for All in Media, and she donated a free session, either 30 minutes or 60 minutes. I said, well, which is it? She said, it depends on how much people can take. So whichever one you want. And I have to tell you, I've been going to Trudy for probably 15 years, and she does a great job, and she's a super nice person. And even Joseph has gone to her because like us Victory Chicks know, we now have hair in places we never wanted it. But as Joseph says, what used to grow on his head is now growing out of his ears. So it's one of nature's cruel jokes, don't you think? So a little electrolysis is a good thing, and Trudy's a good person, and she's funny. So I posted a link to the Girlfriend Gala on today's radio wrap-up and a link for online registration. And if you haven't been, come this year and bring a girlfriend or a couple. So, and here's something else, and it's not about the gala. I want to give a shout-out to the crew at the new Freddy's Steak Burger on 202. I was there for the first time last night, and it was a pretty decent fast food. I had a burger, shake, and fries. And yes, I know I said earlier that I'm dieting, but I was on my way back from a meeting in media. I hadn't eaten dinner. I hadn't eaten anything since noon. So it was after 9, and I was starving. So I started with just a burger and unsweetened iced tea, but they talked me into the combo with fries and tossed in a shake. And you know how it is when you're hungry. That they could have said, then do you want the kitchen sink too? And I would have said yes to that. But what I loved was the service. The crew couldn't have been nicer. And it's fast food, so you know, you don't always expect top-notch service at some of those places. But I got it last night, and they were great, and I enjoyed it, and I'll go back. And if you go and try it out, tell them you heard it on the Friday Happy Hour, because I told them I was going to talk about it this week. So we got to go. So here's my quote for this week, and it's from Gloria Stefan. And she said, the Internet has been a blessing and a curse. The curse we know, a lot of people appropriating your intellectual property without paying for it. But I think it's important to realize the blessing of the Internet, which is that everybody has a voice and you can break through even without a record company. So there you go. You can get your stuff online. Have a fabulous week and come back with me next Friday at the Friday Happy Hour. Chen's on.
Thanks for listening to this Friday Happy Hour. Make sure you subscribe, rate and review today's show. And join us again next week for the Friday Happy Hour with Annmarie Kelly.